604-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of different ways you can get at us, add your 2 cents, chime in, participate in the show, whatever really works for you, whether it's to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride in the roller coaster sense, I guess, the way I tend to think about it. So, yeah, if you're interested in wanting to be a passenger on it, but still in for a thrill or two, yeah, that's a good approximation of at least part of what we do here as we delve into all the topics, the subjects, the important things that affect us here in the borderland, and talking about them the way that no one else is going to. Discuss the things that end up happening here, the things that affect us here, the people that actually live, work, play, etc. in this region, because, yeah, there's a lot going on, among other things. More arrests now announced in that Juarez Migrant Detention Center fire that did end up seeing the president of Mexico visit Juarez in order to deal with some of the fallout and the further to come, most likely. As part of that, also a lot more to happen with more political vacancies pending here in El Paso. Definitely looking like it's going to be a busy, both this current ballot, don't get me wrong, the one that we are impending on, this off-year election that involves a lot of ballot initiatives, propositions, school boards as well, all those very small things, including, yes, Proposition K, but still some of the ones on the next one, a very increasingly busy county ballot. We'll detail what's going on there with a high profile. Okay, I'm not sure if retirement is the right term. It's what we put the announcement post because it's the pithiest phrase we could think of. But yeah, we have a county commissioner not seeking re-election. And then we are also having some more interesting analysis of, well, tale of two sides of the border, state border in this case, you could put that to, with interesting numbers that will break down for what pot sales have looked like in New Mexico. Yeah, it's been a minute since we checked in on that. And now that we've got some data in hand, it's an interesting picture. We'll break that down, but also what the data says about El Paso and population growth or lack thereof. It's not totally zero or negative by any means, but close enough for comfort is the way I'll describe it, in that smodly, cliffhangery way that we'll definitely talk about that. Also, a lot of stuff percolating through the Texas legislature at the moment that we'll certainly also be breaking down, as we also have Ida Beza-Gardner. Hello, with the wave to you as well there. Eric von Holstein-Rathlow, wishing y'all had a great weekend, certainly for yourself as well. John Browsland also chiming in on some of the more national news, including those impending indictments, news story kind of things. I'm like, yeah, understand entirely that's going on. We fully trust the others on this station and in news in general to cover that for y'all. But in the meantime, we'll be talking about the stuff definitely immediately affecting us and what we got going on here in the borderland. So this is not to say we're ignoring that, and certainly if more comes out of it, we'll certainly, I'm sure, have to respond. But in the meantime, we got a lot going on here. This is not a, don't look over there, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain is not the focus here. There's a lot going on right now here in the borderland, and so that's what we're going to further delve into. Marky Mendango, good afternoon to you as well. Glad to see you joining us again, certainly yourself. So let's delve right into it. That's, okay, vaguely clickbaity. I know, I try not to, but County Commissioner Carlos Leon not seeking re-election. And now Carlos Leon, among other things, has been one of the ones I'm interested in. I'm not in his district. I don't vote for him, but precinct number 1, described by our news partners at KFOX 14, running west to east from Geronimo Drive to East Lake Boulevard and north to south from Montana Avenue to Interstate 10. And also incorporates areas along North Zaragoza, including the Turf Estates and Square Dance subdivisions. Interesting one. And she's one of the ones that's still been on there and on County Commissioner's Court since my days of haunting those hallways down at the county courthouse. So, during his retirement, both feels like it dates me on a very personal note, but also caps off, well, maybe not entirely capping off, but certainly a part of a long career, part of his statement that he announced today about not seeing there. Marky Mendengo was kind of surprised there as well, calling him okay, rounding endorsement, rousing there. Certainly part of his statement that he's noted, among other things, that he was also a captain in the El Paso Police Department for 30 years. I knew about his previous experience. Didn't know his actual rank, I'll be honest with you. But what he said was, quote, "The decision has taken much thought and consideration. It has been a tremendous honor and privilege to serve all the constituents of El Paso County. During my tenure, I've had the honor of serving for very dedicated commissioner courts. Very proud of how our county team has elevated the level of judicious, efficient, and responsive government that we provide our residents. I am particularly pleased to have worked over the years with impressive public safety, increased healthcare access, and ensure that we are fiscally responsible to taxpayers' hard-earned dollars." Does say that he is going to be doing other ways of serving the people of El Paso. So that's why I'm saying that maybe retirement isn't entirely the right phrase, but the real reason I bring this up, not so much as a nostalgia pseudo bomb for me, but also the fact that this is another high profile vacancy that is definitely going to be up for grabs on this coming, not the current, but the next one, the next ballot that we'll be seeing in 2024. When we get to that, because we already have a county attorney is one of them. Now we're going to be having a county commissioner seat where, I mean, a bunch of them are already going to be on the ballot, but an actual vacancy for them. And this just, in my mind, adds to the continuing list of high profile vacancies and positions to be filled, either elected or not, in our region. Of course, the whole Tommy Gonzalez city manager thing, with that deal now being inked between, as a kind of vague segue between Carlos Leon's previous legal in the law enforcement sphere, that is, experience, that there is that new contract that has now been inked and signed, as noted being one of the last major actions very likely to come through the city manager's office. El Paso Inc. has a decent breakdown of that and the significance of it that we'll probably be getting into a little bit further as mild spoiler, but we're getting close to that first Tuesday of the month. We will be hearing more from them over at El Paso Inc. on some of the big stories affecting the borderland, including that one, among other things, tomorrow. And John Brazel's been putting in again, almost, well, I'm just going to call it not that generously, saying that dozens of candidates will be seeking his $90,000 salary. A cat fight? Sure, there is definitely, and we've talked about this in the past, a stark difference between what the heck is the pay for city council and then county commissioners court. The biggest, and a lot draws from this difference, that I would say, is the fact that county commissioners votes on their own salary. I'm not calling it entirely out of form, but y'all are welcome to make your own decision on that. Whereas in city council, we end up voting on what their pay raises are, or at the very least the formula, as it is these days, where I do believe it's one time the standard family household income in El Paso, the average or median, I think, is technically the phrase. Let me double check that here in a minute. As opposed to county commissioners court, where, yeah, they set their own, and there has certainly been some divergence on the amounts. I'm just going to put it that way. So that's some of the stuff going on here right now. We got a lot more to delve into as well, certainly including what's going on with some of the enforcement and the aftermath of that Juarez immigration detention center fire, with the person now being accused of starting it under arrest. But then also even across, we're just looking at all sides of the state governments here in the borderland. There'd be Mexico, Chihuahua in that case, and New Mexico, with the big numbers they are posting from the first year of cannabis sales, as well as certainly what El Paso is seeing or not, as the case may be, when it comes to population growth and kind of the implications there. Plus, definitely checking in on the Texas legislature as more bills continue to percolate through. So a lot more to get into, a lot more to detail, and a whole lot more that you'll be hearing from me as we get into that next break. Due for that first one of this hour, so stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this. Phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do. More comments coming in online that we'll get to there as well. So in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690. Light slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound Stanton to the 54 Patriot with a couple-minute delay. Slow traffic Montana Avenue eastbound McRae out to Zaragoza, 9-minute delays. Road construction has got the right lane closed westbound on Montana Avenue from Yarborough to McRae, and it's stop and go on Global Reach southbound between the Spur and Montana Avenue with 22-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
Are the dollar's days as the world reserve currency numbered, or is it overhyped? What should you do? I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm here with Colleen Tressler, a consumer education specialist with the FTC's Division of Consumer and Business Education.
Thank you, Tony. Happy to be here.
Could you tell me more about cryptocurrency? Seems like a real big deal right now.
One of the biggest stories to come out of last year's FTC data is the rise of cryptocurrency. Look, scammers like payments in crypto because once you pay, it's nearly impossible to get your money back.
So what advice can you share to help people avoid a crypto con?
First, only scammers demand payment in cryptocurrency. No legitimate business is going to demand you pay with cryptocurrency. Second, only scammers will guarantee profits or big returns. And finally, if someone on a dating site or app wants to show you how to invest in crypto, or if they ask you to send them crypto, that's a scam.
You can learn more about how to spot, avoid, and report all types of frauds and scams at consumer.ftc.gov.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
Do bank closures, inflation rate hikes, and the roller coaster of the market frighten you as much as it does me? You need to call Oxford Gold. Securing your IRA or 401k with real gold and silver is a portfolio protection plan, and Oxford Gold has made it as easy as 1, 2, 3. One app, one call, and you pick the precious metals. That's it. You now own real precious metals. Call Oxford Gold today and learn more about the 1, 2, 3 protection plan at 833-404-GOLD. That's 833-404-GOLD.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about over there. A lot of comments coming in so far. Those people dropping those likes and reacts already, we certainly appreciate. Angel Ruedo, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monaco Cervantes, Angel Villagran, and Ida Beza Gardner. Certainly do appreciate it. As Marky Mandingo, when hearing about the range of salaries between the two major elected bodies here in the county of El Paso overall, both the city and the county itself, being about the $90,000 phrase. Wasn't able to find that immediately, so maybe I'll take another stab at it. But Marky Mandingo saying they earn that much. City council members earn less than $40,000. Amazing. We pay that. Why not $1 million? And they pushed that scam of Colonel at Escalate. I guess you weren't pleased with your attendance there and going to it. But I will say it's a little bit different. I mean, that's a private organization booking the use of the space, if I'm not misunderstanding it. But in any case, yeah, that's one of the major differences between the city and the county when it comes to compensation of our elected officials. Again, county sets its own, which again, welcome to make your own determination for it. And the city, it used to be we would vote on each individual raise, which pretty quickly, at least to my mind, got noted as was getting voted down. unless it reached a point of absurdity, and which it never really did. So now it's actually on a formula. As you noted, about $40,000 a year, give or take. Yeah, it's based on, I do believe it's the median household income in El Paso, which is still, when you consider how that's formulated, it's not the per capita or per person income, it's per household, and then it's going to one city council rep. And I think the mayor is technically like 1.5 times that part of the formula. So yeah, that's an interesting way that this ends up working. But still looking for that salary for the county commissioners. But do want to say it is, oh no, that one's not corrected. Okay, I'll have to take a little bit more close look at that. Actually, according to our news partners at KFLX 14, here we go. That commissioners will now make a yearly salary of $114,000, though they actually ended up foregoing part of that pay increase. So that's what it was set to be. The county judge earns $131,000 per year, and county commissioners make $114,000 a year. That 90 figure that John Browsenden brought up was more in line with what I guess I remember it being in the discussions when I again was haunting those halls. But that's okay. They're making six figures now, plain and simple. Low six figures, sure, but it's significant enough. Though again, I've been on the record as saying that how much the compensation is, considering what skills, abilities, experience we expect them to have. Is it commensurate with it? I would say that's getting damn near close, if not there. Whereas for city council, yeah, there might be some more tweaks, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion on that. Other things that are certainly affecting us here and going on in the borderland, including, of course, what is happening when it comes to that immigration enforcement action and the cases going on to it, specifically south of the border in Ciudad Juarez, that there is now some details on the person accused of starting the fire in that migrant detention center that has been the cause of both much loss of life, dozens killed and dozens more injured, protests, and even now official government response, including, again, the president of Juarez having to visit, the president of Mexico having to visit Juarez in order to essentially deal with some of this fallout, as even more things are being promised, including other enforcement actions, including on those who were in charge of the prison. But now there has been noted that Jason Daniel Catari Rivas has now been detained and not officially released, as they've not released any of the names of those allegedly responsible. Noted by El Paso Matters, a court order Thursday last week issued arrest orders for 6 people in relation to the fire at the facility, and that 5 of the 6 had already been arrested. And so, of course, among those there that we put forth as being either officials or employee staff of the private contractor at that facility. And now Catari Rivas now being put in further into focus, including, I gotta say, a kind of surreal photo, including on this. You have to go and Mark Mandingo's name is Jason. Not exactly. I might not be pronouncing this right. Spelled Jeison. Jason Daniel. That's the closest I'm getting. So someone correct me if I'm wrong. Jeison. And the real kind of surreal photo is of them in the back of a detention immigration officer's vehicle after being detained, apparently taken as selfie style. And you can see around and behind them the wire mesh, a kind of like really close chicken mesh, but stronger looking than that, I'll say, over the windows as to prevent someone from, busting a window and getting out. So that bears out. But the fact that there's a selfie in the back of this, that just feels almost too surreal for me. So that's a part of the continuing response and probably continuing fallout going there. So as we continue the story of essentially what's going on in very different situations on all sides of all of our local borders. Eric von Holstein-Rathel suggesting maybe it's pronounced Jason, potentially. I don't know. That's not one I've run across that often. So someone please correct me if I'm wrong. And yeah, Marky Mandingo pointing out that in the photo, which purports to be from before the fire was taken, again, after initially being detained, as noted in the caption by El Paso Matters, taken there with a friend, Oscar Jose Regalado Silva, after being picked up by immigration officials in Juarez on Monday. He is smiling, or at the very least, the dude behind him, if that's the correct one, definitely giving like a thumbs up. Again, I can't call it anything besides surreal. You got to see it for yourself over at elpasomatters.org. That's one of their top ones. And so just weird, but okay. Continuing on talking about the story of the various different things that are going on in the borderland. We haven't talked too much recently about the whole marijuana legalized sale in the state anyway situation in New Mexico. I got to say that a lot of the furor that was being had over the whole situation, enforcement concerns, how the hell is this going to work? How could people be potentially prosecuted if they were crossing the state lines or any of those Border Patrol checkpoints? We've heard a little bit of that, but I don't feel anywhere near the level that was initially being posited as being possible, unless it's just flown totally under the radar. But among other things, it has now been a year since there are actually been enforced in New Mexico, the legalization of marijuana sales, that is. And so marijuana statewide putting more than $300 million in sales throughout the state because it came up out this time. Oh, wasn't this last year? I know I have 420 in mind. I think it was in time for 420. So it was at the start of the month. So as we are here, no fooling, besides April 1st, as noted by our news partners over at KFOX 14, based on the announcement from New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, that there was about 2,000 cannabis licenses issued in the last year, including 633 cannabis retailers, 531 producers, 415 micro producers, and 507 manufacturers. That's not the real fascinating part of it, but the fact that there was that $300 million total amount is interesting, particularly, I guess, for a cottage industry. Maybe it's particularly with some of the recent interviews we've had, putting that alcohol sales just in El Paso were in the billions. So let's call it nascent, but an increasing focus on it. The actual amount of revenue that New Mexico saw, interesting on its own, let's call it just shy of about 10%, about $27 million in excise taxes going to the state general fund and to local communities, and more than 10 million transactions happening across the state. Now, of course, some of the biggest numbers being posted in some of the biggest cities in New Mexico, including Las Cruces, Albuquerque, and Santa Fe, but there were some smaller ones as well, including not too far from us, Ruidoso, seeing about a bit more than $7 million in adult use sales, but then Sunland Park specifically saw about just shy of $20 million in sales as well. So it's interesting perspective on how much has actually been coming through, how much has actually been seen. And again, first year up until further notice anyway, it's just been, I'm still surprised that some of those like side door pot stores, I've heard increasing amounts, and I didn't see a breakdown of this part of it, that Chaparral actually, which is, I will freely admit, not a place I totally frequent. Hey, it's completely on the other side of not even just the county, but the county line for me, where I tend to view my stomping grounds, but also not a, I mean, I know a few people there and they're fine people, but not a place I totally go and end up hanging out. I'll absolutely say that. But then on the El Paso side of things, as we're kind of doing the whole tri-state area, so to speak, that El Paso, while New Mexico is seeing growth in marijuana sales, El Paso and its population still seeing some not great numbers. Yeah, I know. Pot sales and population aren't exactly an apples to apples comparison, but this is an area that has not been seeing a growth. As further noted by El Paso Matters on this, El Paso's county population grew by fewer than 700 people over the last calendar year, and referring to it as a flattening trend. Not great. Let's just put it that way. And particularly in a July 1st of 2022 is only about 600 and change over the previous year. So they're going a little bit further into it, including quoting some previous guests in the show. Tom Fullerton, professor of economics at UTEP, quoted saying, "The combination of net out migration and lower natural increase has caused El Paso County population to roughly match that of the nation as a whole in recent years. While this is a marked change from what it was historically the case in El Paso, there are many large metropolitan counties across the country that exhibit a similar dynamic or even lose population on an ongoing basis. A little bit more actual growth being seen in Doña County, about 1,700 people. So not exactly gangbuster numbers in the area. That put it in perspective, Texas's population growth in that same time frame, about 1.5%, where if you put into a percentage, El Paso's was about like 0.4, 0.5%, if I'm not mistaken, total population growth. So not great, and still leads to more questions on how things will be working for, okay, we're still a ways out, 7 years to be specific, from the next census. The fact that we saw some of these districts being including more diluted out or completely district out of our area, specifically when it comes to some of the state house representation. There's one that basically no longer is part of the real population base in El Paso County. Those are where some of the real immediate implications to my mind come from, but of course there's a whole lot more than coming into support, funding, the resources that are dedicated to this area. Not great. So yeah, argument Dingo saying grew by 700 humans, but taxes went up over 10%. Also questioning about the amounts. I think that sounds like $600,000 in taxes, give or take, for the Sunland Park area. Depending, I mean, there's a whole lot of ways that you can end up slicing this, but that's what's being reported by our news partners over at KFOX 14. So some of the components that is put forth by El Paso Matters, that there was more people that were actually coming to the area, or natural growth, as they put it. It's about 4,000, but that when you combine that with people moving to the area against people moving away from the area, there still is movement. So it's not just a slow leak or anything, but there is still a lot of movement being needed, it seems like. So that's the story of the kind of 3 counties, what we're seeing. One more story I want to mention over in El Paso Matters of interest, how COVID technology created unruly children, which I'm sure there are some out there that can commiserate with, particularly pointing to research, or at very least anecdotal evidence from kindergarten teachers and things like that in these recent years. And one final note I want to make, El Paso Wink, then one that we won't be totally talking about tomorrow, but is affecting some of the people I know, including myself, a bit, why the Luby's on North Mesa had to close, as we are, yes, in more or less the last week, I do believe, of that location still being opening. There are more Luby's that are still open in town. Don't worry about that if you really got to get your, as noted by El Paso Wink, square fish fix, but that one will be closing, partially due to some of the upheaval we've heard about in recent years, but also due to the decision being made by the actual owner of the property not to renew the lease. So they got the full details over there. Let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talk more about what's going on within the Texas legislature and the many things moving through there, including bills involving diverse subject as electric charging stations, beekeeping, and even property rights. Yeah, definitely something that is to be considered. So we'll talk more about that and end up discussing some of the questions y'all posting right now. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more to talk about, a lot more we're getting into, and a lot more we want to hear from y'all. Phone lines open here in just a bit, as we normally do. But in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The county commissioner that oversees most of East El Paso, including the El Paso County Sports Park, is not seeking re-election. County Commissioner Carlos Leon made that announcement today. Leon is a former El Paso police officer who represents Precinct 1, which runs west to east from Geronimo to Eastlake Boulevard and north to south from Montana to I-10. A 33-year-old man has been identified as the shooter who injured a police officer with the Sunland Park Police Department over the weekend. Tony Gomez has been booked into the Doña Ana County Jail. Gomez on Sunday was charged with multiple crimes, including attempted murder, assault against a household member, aggravated battery against a household member, and abuse of a child and negligent use of a weapon. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound at Loma Land, a disabled trucks blocking the right shoulder. Slow traffic with 5-minute delays eastbound on the 10 from Prospect Street to 54 Patriot. It's up to a 15-minute delay eastbound Montana Avenue McRae out to Zaragoza. And the next 4 days till 5 in the afternoon, northbound Loop 375 is lane closures from Zaragoza overpass to North Loop Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the CBS 4 Warm Weather Center, I'm forecaster Vanya Castillo. Well, we're in for a very warm day here in the borderland, looking at a high of 83 degrees in El Paso, 80 in Las Cruces. So you have very warm temperatures, but we're also going to be seeing quite a bit of wind in with that as well. We are going to be seeing a wind advisory in effect until 3 p.m. We are expecting a 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. Could be seeing gusts up to 40 to 45 miles per hour. We are expecting blowing dust as well. So just be mindful while you're on the road. Drive carefully.
This report is sponsored by Jackson Hewitt. For your guaranteed biggest refund and 50% off tax prep, switch to Jackson Hewitt. 50% off is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
How have big tech companies become monopolies? And perhaps more importantly, should anything be done to stop them? To find the answer, Red Pilled America follows the untold origin story of YouTube. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there, including over on the YouTube. Tridosac noticing appraisal notices went out today. Homeowners don't get complacent. Get in touch with reputable real estate agents to get comps on recent sales. Document repairs needed. Protest your appraisals. And then in all caps, emphasis there's do it. I mean, yeah, I haven't gotten one in my mail yet. Looking just, so much forward to it. One of those first new homeowner type things I guess I'm going to be going through, including trying to figure out this week about the whole homestead exemptions and relating to that. So fun with a capital F and several other letters that may or may not end up spelling fun. Anyway, that's one of the things going on. So appreciate the note on that. And some other questions, including Ronaldo Rivera asking, are migrants being counted as part of an increase in population? To my understanding, no, because this is from some of the interim census work. No, working for the Census Department does not mean that you only have to work once every 10 years. There's a lot of like interim notification and canvassing that ends up going on. So what we are talking about there is actual like permanent people registering their addresses here, among other things. Again, full details over with elpasomatters.org. Their story titled, While El Paso Continues to See Little Population Growth, though this is not as simple as no one's moving here or no one wants to move here. Again, there's both in and out pressure in terms of just kind of indigenous population growth, people being born here, so to speak, as well as some people moving here, more people moving away, but not enough to put it underwater, at least as of yet. And yeah, I think I may have made a mistake in what I said earlier, that the national growth rate of 0.4%, 5 times El Paso County's growth. So still seeing serious problems. And the figures released by the Census Bureau late last week are estimates based on local, federal, and state data on subjects such as housing, births, deaths, and change of address. So this is not the 100% everyone has been canvassed. That's what the decennial census actually ends up getting into, but estimations along those lines, still not exactly a rosy picture. But so in short answer, no. I will say that, though. Also, other questions, including Marky Mandingo, saying all that new developments on the I think I missed the question there. There we go. All that new developments on the east side should house a lot more than 700 humans. And that's part of why I think this is a more complicated question than you just think, including Ronaldo Rivera asking, why is there a push to build houses and apartments? There is kind of a chicken and an egg question, at least in my minds, that are a part of it. Because if there's not enough space for people to move to, then they're not going to. And if people are not wanting and not having what they need here, they're going to move out of it. So, and that's kind of an interesting way to put it as well, because and Ronaldo Rivera not liking the build it and they will come. Part of it's also saying that how about improving infrastructure, lowering taxes, and bringing industry? That's what brings new people, not more building. Need money to rent or buy. I get your perspective, but also some of the numbers, including what we've talked about previously with, say, Professor Fullerton over at UTEP, is about that we have incredibly high occupancy rates, like above 90. We've seen rents being increasing, so there's still a lot of demand in the area, and that could potentially, having not done the analysis myself, contribute to it. There just not being enough space. And so people, if they want a different standard of living, a different ability, a different pricing, what have you, they may be moving out as opposed to waiting for something to be completed. There are still a bunch of housing developments, expansions, and stuff going on. Again, the area, the Zaragoza Triangle, as I refer to it, that's kind of bounded by Zaragoza, Joe Battle, and Montana, has been one of the biggest boom areas in town in terms of population change. It's one of the major drivers of what we saw the change in the actually city council districts from the last census. So it's a complicated picture is what I'm trying to get at here, but I would say that more development, making it more possible for people to live in town or in the county overall, probably also an important one. And so that's an interesting kind of segue-ish to some of the bills being percolating through the Texas legislature right now, including very much a chicken and egg question being raised over electric vehicles. I know a favorite subject of some of y'all out there. 2 bills currently percolating through the Senate right now, as noted by Texas Tribune article titled, "With More Electric Vehicles Expected in Texas, 2 bills pave the road, that is, for fast charging stations statewide." They do note that the amount of actual fast charging stations in the area in Texas across the entire state is just 329 of them overall. So that's if someone is interested in that. Also do note that only about 0.4% of all vehicles registered in the state of Texas are electric vehicles or electric primary vehicles anyway, so about 100,000 of them and change. So looking to put forth new formulas, new funding propositions, as well as the laying foundation for it, because it's anticipated that within about the next 10 years that there will be about an 8% of the total amount of vehicles registered in Texas. So let's call that close to about maybe 1 million, give or take. Back of the hand kind of math there. But that's an interesting, again, chicken and egg situation. That one, again, percolating. One has passed the Senate, one making its way out of committee right now. Also, another interesting one's about labeling honey as being made in Texas only if it includes honey completely produced by apiaries, bee houses, essentially, in Texas. There are some, though, as again further noted by the Texas Tribune, not happy about that because what they say is a lack of reality of recognition of the reality of business, that not one hive makes one jar of honey, etc. And sometimes if there's a offshoot of it, not enough to fill out another entire container, they will mix it from nearby farms, including those across state lines. I know, maybe not the most exciting one, but this one certainly has a lot of implications. Again, from the Texas Tribune here, Chinese Americans fight for their place in Texas as lawmakers push restrictions on foreign land ownership and social media platforms. Now, I think at least one person last week ended up bringing up the question about how there has not been that much discussion about TikTok and what's going on with it. And yeah, that's an ongoing national thing. But some of the specific situations here in the state of Texas noted that specifically Governor Greg Abbott from a Twitter post back in January, said that he was ready to sign into law a proposed bill that would ban quote citizens, government, and entities of China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia from purchasing land in the state. And this has raised concerns specifically with some immigrants, those looking to relocate here, effectively barring them from home ownership. Now, some of the other concerns that end up going into this would be about, and certainly maybe has been further highlighted by, let's just call it more recent incidents involving proximity to of either purchases or surveillance on sensitive military installations, including those here in the state of Texas, being, again, the focus of this bill. It's an interesting one, but also the whole situation involving TikTok, the one platform we're not on, or one of the platforms we're not on, but also there are a few others that are noted as such as WeChat, among other things. It's an interesting review of a lot of swirling situations whenever you talk about and try to set firm rules like this, and one of the ones that is, again, percolating through the Texas legislature, but very much related to what Trito Sack said earlier about property taxes and those appraisals. This is probably the most significant one percolating through the Texas legislature right now, and that is on what will be done with cutting property taxes. Again, with the state of Texas not actually being the setting entity for that, they do set some rules that will then use as the local formulas to then end up determining your property taxes. So there's now a little bit of a rift going on. It did seem like there was, at least in the idea, the overarching of lowering taxes and property taxes, specifically agreement between let's call it the three major stakeholders in doing that decision, both the Speaker of the House, the head of the Senate, and then the governor, because eventually he will sign it. And now, again, further noted by the Texas Tribune here, rift grows between Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and House Speaker Dade Phelan over how to cut property taxes. So it's not necessarily a question of should they, but how will they? And let's just say, as much as there is similar letters by each of the names of these individuals, they're all Republicans. That has not been any necessarily way of guaranteeing that, they're all going to be in lockstep and doing all the same things. In fact, much to the opposite, because just the Texas Tribune saying the top two Republicans in the Texas legislature have dug in their heels on how to reduce property tax owners' tax burden, with dueling proposals on how to get it done and a path to a potential compromise unclear. Of course, we've talked about this previously, that Dan Patrick looking at the homestead exemption, again, that bit of fun that I'm going through right now, on doing that way to kind of chop off part of the taxable value across the board, while the Phelan, and therefore the state house plan, ends up looking at a appraisal cap on how much of a homeowner's value can be raised each year, which would also affect some of those notices coming out right now. So the whole you got to play ball with us has not exactly been a viable rhetorical strategy between the chambers in years past, and frankly, throughout much of the recent history of the Texas legislature. Just because the Senate says so doesn't mean that the House is going to play ball, even if, again, we're all talking the same party here, among other things. So that will be an interesting one to see if it actually ends up playing out. I am sure that something push will come to shove before too long, since we're getting towards that time frame at the end of this session, because we ain't got that much gas in the tank, so to speak. It's only this first half of the year, you got to remember. And sure, there's the possibility of there being a special session called, but I can see a lot of political feathers being ruffled if this ends up not coming on to it. Specifically, among other things, Dan Patrick, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas and head of the Senate, arguably one of his primary responsibilities, has vowed not to compromise with the House on the idea. And that's kind of a that's a real useful rhetorical and debate point there, I gotta say. I'd be floored if something doesn't end up happening on this issue before the end of this session, because I could see this definitely being some egg on the face of the governor, among other things. If I'm fully willing to believe he would be willing to call a special session to get a property tax reform and lowering done, but I'd still would see a little bit of a political egg on his face if he has to do so, because if this wasn't one of the top priorities being done, as something that he promised among many times on the campaign trail, that's a biggin, and definitely one of the ones that harkens directly to his party. James Ratcliffe, among other things, saying that tells us our government is running against the people. Property taxes used to be an exception, not the rule. So not happy about that progress either. Then on more on the local side, involving property taxes in its own right. John Brazelton saying citizens of El Paso passed a bond issue to improve the roads. What roads are being improved? What's the city manager doing besides spending our taxes? I mean, that's definitely happening. If I'm not mistaken, we're still in the my phrasing, not theirs, study and reflection period. Okay, maybe not that last part. Definitely study on looking at what roads to be prioritized. Want to say that was part of the bond issue that was passed. Yeah, then the last time we all went to the polls here in the city of El Paso. So that's, I don't think it's fully in place yet, is the short answer. Maybe some road projects starting, but we'll have to look more into that and see what's actually going on with it. So with that, let's go and take that next break right now and go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do at this point during the program. So if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents, chime in on the show in that fashion, besides like we've been doing with the social media, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Northbound of the 54 Patriot at Fred Wilson, a disabled truck's blocking the left shoulder. Slow traffic eastbound Montana Avenue, McRae out to Zaragoza is a 26-minute delay. Stop and go with slow traffic on Global Reach southbound from the Spur down to Montana Avenue, 17-minute delays. And the exit ramp closed for road work America's Avenue eastbound at Pan American. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
The Dell Technologies semi-annual sale starts now with savings on select PCs powered by the latest 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Plus, get deals on select accessories and free shipping on everything. Save now by calling 877-ASK-DELL.
If you want to sell your home, don't be afraid of the market. Be afraid of picking the wrong agent. Hi, it's Glenn, and I want to talk to you about the best agent, I think, in El Paso, the one I'd call. It's Brian Birds of eXp Realty. And trust me when I say Brian Birds is a great real estate agent. He understands that selling your home is not just an event, it's a process that he has refined and perfected specifically for the El Paso market. He gets your home in front of the right eyes so you can get the right buyer, the right price, and the right timeline. Getting your home sold quickly for the most amount of money possible and the least stress possible is something he does every day. You can trust the whole process to Brian Birds and his team. They do the job, so your only job is just to pack. With Brian Birds right there in El Paso, I don't know why you'd call anybody else. Read Brian's 400-plus 5-star reviews by Googling Brian Birds or go to brianbirds.com. That's Brian, BURDS.com.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
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 Babbel, évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast, former President Donald Trump indicted by a grand jury in New York. So does this mean that he can still run for president? Absolutely. I'm going to explain to you what the law says. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late.
Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Rosetta Stone, where language is learned. RosettaStone.com.
Most of the time, traffic is pretty good. But there are times when traffic can be pretty bad. No, I mean like really bad. Almost, but more like an asteroid's gonna hit the city and everyone's trying to get out of town at once and nobody's car is moving and people are running down the highway clutching their kids and whatever belongings they can grab. Yep, now you got it. It's times like these you need your severe traffic station. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the program, either by chiming in there, including Airphone Holstein Rathlow saying they need to prioritize Saul Kleinfeld and Pebble Hills when it comes to those roadway works, that infrastructure bond, among other things that was passed. So I think that they are doing like community outreach, those type of things. So certainly hope you're able to participate or attend, or at least someone articulating similar types of issues, and a whole lot more points being made there. And then we'll delve more into those here. We have those phone lines open as well, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Let me just put it this way. When it comes to who gets through on the line, we don't do call screening. We don't say, we're not going to take that call because, well, we want to hear from y'all. Some subjects we may not entertain as much, but it really seems that the real difference on who gets through the line or not is tenacity and willingness to stick through it, because they do often end up filling up. Not quite full up at the moment, but tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now so as to not shortchange anyone's comments, because, hey, we at least want to hear from y'all and what you have to say about the issues that affect us here in the borderland. And let me just, the one time I'll feed the trolls this hour, being accused of censorship by not directly talking about something. Hey, get right the heck out. I mean, if you want to bring up something non sequitur, I'll say, okay, interesting point, but we're moving on because it's not what we're talking about today. But if you're saying that means that you can't talk about it, I think you need to look up what the definition of censorship is. But let's go ahead and take that break. Get back on the phone lines, coming right back out after it, and the top of the hour news. So again, remember that number, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break. And the top of the hour news on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Northbound of the 54 Patriot at Fred Wilson, a disabled truck's blocking the left shoulder. Slow traffic eastbound Montana Avenue, McRae out to Zaragoza is a 26-minute delay. Stop and go with slow traffic on Global Reach southbound from the Spur down to Montana Avenue, 17-minute delays. And the exit ramp closed for road work, America's Avenue eastbound at Pan American. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Golden Voice presents Power Trip. Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica, Tool. You'll have pit tickets for the entire Power Trip weekend. VIP camping at the Safari Tent Campground. All thanks to Golden Voice. Register now to buy tickets at powertrip.live. On sale Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Enter for your chance to win now. iHeartRadio.com/PowerTrip.
Records, milestones, firsts, lasts, and everything in between. What happened today in sports history on iHeartRadio?
What's happening, fellow sports fans? It's Andy West. Let's take a look back on this day in sports history, April 4th. We'll start off today back in 1983, a replay you may have seen a few times in your life. Lorenzo Charles scores on a dunk after Derek Wittenberg's 35-foot desperation shot falls short to give Jim Valvano's NC State team a 54-52 win over Houston in the NCAA championship. Today in 1993, Mario Andretti at age 53 wins the Valvoline 200 in Phoenix to become the oldest driver to win an IndyCar race and the first driver to win a race in 4 different decades. And today in 2005, Dimitri Young becomes the third player to hit 3 homers on opening day to lead Detroit over Kansas City 11-2. In 2018, Matt Davidson of the White Sox became the 4th player to do this.
News on the hour
day.
and the half.
you know.
Traffic
Today
and
in
weather
sports
all
history
day.
on
News
iHeart
Radio
Radio.
690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. On the eve of his arraignment, former President Trump is now at Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan. More from Natalie Migliori.
Helicopters remain overhead following the former president's arrival at Trump Tower. Media presence remains heavy, and a few dozen of his supporters could be seen cheering as he entered the building, but they couldn't see him. Viewing was very limited as the former president entered his residence. As far as we know, he'll remain there tonight, sleep there, and then head to Manhattan Criminal Court tomorrow. Live from Midtown Manhattan, I'm Natalie Migliori, New York.
Renewed interest in the Alec Murdaugh trial is leading to a teen's body being exhumed. Investigators found Stephen Smith on a rural road near the Murdaugh property known as Moselle in 2015, initially ruled as a hit and run. Now a homicide investigation is being reopened, with the state saying they received tips that the older Murdaugh son Buster may be connected. The deadly twister that hit Delaware over the weekend has been classified as an EF3. That ties with a tornado that struck in Newcastle County in 1961 as the strongest in Delaware history. One person was killed when their house collapsed and thousands were left without power. The DHSS activated its call center yesterday for storm victims who need assistance. The Nashville school shooter who killed 3 children and 3 adults spent months planning the attack. More from Lisa Taylor.
That's according to a statement from the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. The shooting happened at the Covenant School last week. The shooter was killed by officers responding to calls for help. All 3 kids that were killed were 9 years old. I'm Lisa Taylor.
The names of the 4 astronauts embarking on the Artemis 2 mission are being announced by NASA. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Chicago mayoral candidates Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallis are hitting the campaign trail hard before tomorrow's runoff election. Perry Williams reports.
Johnson spoke with the media and attempted to clear up a statement he made during a recent forum.
I said, I read a book, Black Labor, White Wealth. Look, I know that there is a lot of interest in this city to see it divided. We're not dividing this city.
Vallis spoke to supporters yesterday at Ann Sather's restaurant on the north side, also about unifying the city.
Race should not be a factor in this race, and it only serves to divide our city. I'm here to unite our city.
The former CPS CEO and Johnson both visited a series of Southside churches. I'm Perry Williams.
A Labor Department filing shows Amazon's spending on labor consultants rose over $14 million last year, trying to quash unionizing efforts. The e-commerce giant tripled its spending from last year when it first started going against union drives at warehouses. In the filing, Amazon says they hired the consultants to help in expressing the company's opinion on union representation and to educate employees about the issues. The CDC is warning, stop eating raw cookie dough.
11 states are dealing with a salmonella outbreak. At least 12 people have gotten sick so far, although health officials believe the number is much higher. The cases are all from December to mid-February. At least 6 patients said they ate raw dough or batter just days before their symptoms began, and all the products use the same flour. I'm Michael Kastner.
For the first time in years, the stinky corpse flower is poised to bloom at the New York Botanical Garden. Visually, it's an elegant-looking pink power flower featuring a center spike and a stalk that can grow 12 feet tall, but it smells like rotting meat. You can tune in now to watch the corpse flower bloom. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Win. That's win. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
How have big tech companies become monopolies? And perhaps more importantly, should anything be done to stop them? To find the answer, Red Pilled America follows the untold origin story of YouTube. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeart Radio app or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
The How to Money podcast helps you live a richer life by teaching you how to handle the money you have in a more thoughtful, purposeful way. Join hosts Joel and Matt for personal finance nuggets that actually make a difference in your life.
Well, the number one rule of cheap travel is to let the deal drive the destination. Bali, it might not be on your radar, but if the price is right, it should be.
Right, yeah. When you take this tactic, it allows you to travel more because you're doing it for so much less money.
Listen to How to Money on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Good Feed Store, improving people's lives 2 feet at a time.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Elliott in the morning.
Rover's Morning Glory.
Booker and Stryker.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
Alter Ego, are you ready?
All of the best free curated playlists.
Nobody does it better.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
We're the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so for on and still taking those comments over there these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning and chiming in over there, likes and reacts that we certainly do appreciate, including James Holmes, Ted Kors, Angel Rueda, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, Angel Villagran, and Ida Beza Gardner. Also, of course, have that phone line open if you want to get on the line there. Do have some availability on it still. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And a lot of stuff we're talking about here today. So, in some debate going on about what's going on with population in the city, on the debate on who gets counted as part of it, Marky Mandingo on the idea of anyone crossing the border without total permission being included, saying probably not. If they were counted, a population would go up many percentage points. And yeah, that pretty well bears out. And also, just look at the patterns that we do see in our area. There's a whole lot of transits through our area, not necessarily a lot of settling. The times that we start seeing the backlog, the bunch ups, the overwhelming of shelters is whenever there are changing situations south of the border, like the busing into the Juarez area that we literally saw through video late last year in the lead up to the potential end of Title 42, or if there are other log jams, transportation, other logistical issues. Otherwise, it seems to be the vast majority of people seeking to enter the U.S. in this region, in our area, in our broadcast zone, are then seeking to move on to other places. And this can be seen, among other things, in the fact that CBP in custody, the 7-day rolling average reaching some recent-ish high water marks. The total releases for the last full calendar week were about, let's call it about 1,300 and change, 1,350, damn near close. But that the actual rolling 7-day average as of right now, those in custody in our area, is 3,800. So yeah, if those were translating into directly habitating here, I would see those numbers going. I mean, that number alone, the current in custody rolling 7-day average, would be more than, again, according to the numbers put forth by El Paso Matters, and from those numbers, that would be just about the entire amount of net domestic migration out of the area. So some of those phrases and those terms being used there, migrant migration is a part of it, but they're talking about people moving to or from the area, as opposed to, migration out, immigration in, but in the domestic sense for the most part. Anyway, go and see the numbers for yourself. ElPasoMatters.org. They have that up along with the article titled "While El Paso Continues to See Little Population Growth." Well, let's go ahead and get back to that phone line now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, and happy Monday to you.
Yeah, happy Monday to you as well. What's on your mind?
Well, two things. Number one, Carlos Leon, Commissioner Leon.
No, yes, absolutely.
Well, I don't blame him for retiring, wanting to retire.
Certainly.
Campaigning, fundraising, and being a member of commissioner's court, it is very strenuous. So him being, by the time he retires, he'll have 12 years and a good considerable retirement with the county.
Yeah, that's also by noted by some other conversations I was being told about that, noting that he was in a pretty serious motorcycle accident a few years back, and that lingering issues from that can often make people make certain decisions on how they're going to spend chunks of their lives. So, no, it's not something he explicitly labeled, but I mean, he's been on this, and I do believe he even had a bout with cancer, if I'm not mistaken. So he's had a lot coming on with his life. And so, I mean, I have no blame for him deciding to do that. The main reason I brought it up is that it's adding another one to the roles of major positions up for grabs in El Paso and El Paso County, and even larger regionally. I think we're at a tally of like 7 or 8 now at this point of like top level positions in which there's definitely going to be someone new.
Very true, very true. Well, he's also a retired chief of police from El Paso PD, and with his county retirement and him being over 65, I mean, Social Security kicks in. He's got a good chunk of change coming his way. Like I said, very well deserved.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there are certain decisions, and I will say for that purpose, and just to be fair, that he has said that he will be finding other ways to contribute to the community. I'd be personally surprised if that involves some other run for any other position, maybe being active within, registration or other aspects like that. Who knows? But that's why I kind of called this retirement, even if he's not saying he's totally stepping away from all public life. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a largely move away from it.
Well, 32 years of public service was enough for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, concerning the 2023 notice of appraisal value, I got it in the mail today.
Oh,
Andrew,
boy.
it's much worse than, anyway, mine was. It's much worse than it was last year.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you for like specific numbers, but vague percentage wise, how much of a valuation change were you looking at for your situation then?
Well, I haven't calculated the percentage-wise, but it's a $22,000 increase in appraisal value of the property.
That can be significant. Not trying to call you out or anything, but based on like an average approaching about $100,000 value, that could be, if you're in the range there, about like maybe like a 10% increase then.
It's hard. I haven't. I'd be
fair
lying to you if I spewed out a term, but it is significant.
Fair enough. And I'll be looking so eagerly in my mailbox for that one, and I'll try to tell y'all what I get once I get that notice. Haven't checked it today, but I'll be burning the butt out of the studio right after this to go and see if I've gotten one yet.
Correct. Now, there's I'm wondering if this increase is in anticipation of the tax relief that we're going to see if the tax relief passes in the legislature, or is this just more to come if Proposition K passes?
Well, there are a lot of implications that would come with Proposition K. So I would say that one of the biggest differences, TreadoSec actually noting that their taxes went up 11% by their calculations so far this year. So it sounds like that might be in the range. Again, not going to try to put you on the spot with quick numbers. But what I will say is that the difference between a lot of ballot items that have come up recently, including all of the bonds, the streets bonds that we've been having a little bit of discussion on, as well as the environmental sustainability bond that was part of that whole community development bond, the parts A, B, and C that we voted on most recently, those have their own essentially tax rates associated with them. So it does come out of your full amount of taxes, even if it doesn't come out of the city budget side of it. This being a completely new agency entity, the whole department that would be created by actual Proposition K, if passed as written, would involve there being changes to, and I would argue probably immediately required increases in the base level tax rate just for the city of El Paso. So short answer, yes, I would imagine there would be property tax increases, which is also part of the reason that those debates going on in the Austin and at the Capitol are kind of important, because they could very much further decide how these type of taxes end up getting assessed.
Very, very, very true. So, gosh, Let's just hope for the best. I'm going to try to protest this, but last year I was successful.
Okay.
This year, and last year I put in about 10 to 12 hours of just research, and I was fortunate to get a decrease, but this year I don't know how successful I'll be.
I am not an attorney, an appraiser, a real estate agent, or any of the above, but what I will say is that the best advice I've been given, and I'll be looking at more, will be it often goes to not even like specific improvements, specific even appraisals to yours, but what of similar properties in your area have been done at. So I mean, there are appraisal companies out there, ones that will come do inspections and the whole kit and caboodle, but that's a starting point anyway, the advice I've been given.
Yes, agreed, and I'll see what I'll spend some time calculating this tonight.
Oh, sure.
Anyway. Oh, and interesting news tomorrow. Trump is now in New York, ready for his arraignment tomorrow. That'll be interesting.
Again, we're still going to be focusing on the local things as much as possible, but once this reaches, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of, let's just say, potential for zoo-like qualities involving all of this, though also there's some trying to tamp it down. So we, again, trust our national news partners to definitely bring you all the most relevant things on that. If we need to, we'll do what we have to locally.
True. Well, like I said before, I'm not going to make any speculations until I actually see what he's charged with. But anyway,
fair enough.
You have a good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Take care.
And with that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now, so I'm not as much blowing up my breaks as I have been recently. Staying on track, staying on schedule, and staying on with more of y'all's comments and calls. Again, if you want to get on that line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Chelsea Street. A couple of vehicles blocking the right shoulder on the 54 Patriot northbound at Fred Wilson. A stalled truck blocking the left shoulder. Slow traffic eastbound Montana Avenue with up to 29-minute delays between McRae and Zaragoza. And stop-and-go traffic. Global Reach southbound from the Spur down to Montana Avenue. Half-hour delays there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
Are the dollar's days as the world reserve currency numbered, or is it overhyped? What should you do? I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
It's April, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Being aware of the world world around you is important.
When it comes to news, yes, I am.
So we're feeding your need to know 24/7 at the top and bottom of the hour.
I like to know what's going on in my locality, abroad.
Events of the world.
Fairly so. Yeah, I'm pretty connected.
Or down the street.
For the most part, I know what's going on.
You know, I need to be aware and what to look out for, and I'm real cautious, so yeah, I need to have that.
It's what we do. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
No Hollywood release can match it.
It's worth the wait. Who complains?
No television drama can equal it.
That was the scariest episode of your show.
And nothing else comes close to the drama.
This is unbelievable.
And you know what? Quite frankly, this scares people.
Join the conversation. We have seen this movie before. We know that it doesn't end well.
Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, like Mondo Mancanda is doing over there. Yo to you as well. A lot of the comments coming in there, and of course, phone calls if you wanted to do it that way as well. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. More people chiming in, particularly on the whole property value situation. Ion Grimm saying property market value went up $100,000 and appraised value up to, if I'm looking at this right, if I'm not looking at the zeros here, right, $24,000, which sounds, well, about what previous caller was saying, but yeah, and also, as always, careful what you wish for. But also, Austin Redfern chiming in saying typical real estate values are determined by fair market value, quote unquote, based on other real estate that's up for sale nearby. The price divided by square feet determines the value. Basically, yeah, that's essentially the formula and way it is that I'm aware of, because among other things, after we finally closed on the house I'm now in and did all of the calculations and stuff like that and valuations, we came up a little bit ahead of what the mortgage is anyway, which feels like small consolation, but wasn't really affected much by some of the initial work we were even doing in the house. We didn't do anything like, I would call it like just short of a renovation, because we didn't knock down any walls or change anything structurally, but definitely painted the whole place. It basically changed every surface you can touch. So it feels like just shy of a renovation, just because had been a rental property, had a lot of wear and tear before that, and a lot of things that you just know you're in a place when it's been maintained or not by someone who doesn't have to live there. Y'all know what I mean, I'm sure. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Well, gee whiz, I wanted to talk about local issues. However, you don't have Jay on, and you have yet to produce those folks relative to Proposition K. So I am relegated to talk about something else. Now,
okay.
I sent you a couple of newsy emails,
sure.
specifically one picture. You have got to, by the gods of old, Andrew, have got to put that on your Facebook and show everybody out there what a typical Donnie Dotard doofus supporter looks like. Did you see that picture?
I don't think that one ended up coming through. I got a few other notes of you, particularly from other Yahoo posters, but I feel like I would have remembered a specific picture showing that, unless this was a while back.
No, I did that today. Anyway,
okay.
It could have been Quasimodo's sister or an extra in Wrong Turn movies. A typical looking person that votes for the Donnie Dotard. Now, let me say this, and this is important. Now, you got a lot of people complaining to Joe Biden and everybody else, Democrats, liberals, whatever you want to call it, Oh my goodness, eggs cost $6. Bread costs $5, and whatever else it costs. Yet 5 million people, 5 million or more, found it some money to send to the Donnie Dotard. By the way, a billionaire. Hello, everybody out there, a billionaire, and you're sending money to a billionaire? What's the matter with you people out there? That's my opening comment.
Okay, I understand your potential frustration with the idea of it, but let me just say this, that even up to and frankly including this point, and it's arguably even still going on now, even with his announced presidential run, outside of any of these implications, that the former president's greatest use when it comes to particularly the party in general has been as a lightning rod for fundraising. So let me just say I'm not surprised that that has been a call and that there have been those receptive to it, among other things. Whether or not it's apt or reliable or a good idea in this case, I'm going to leave up to individual determinations. But again, with all that going on, we do trust our national news partners, among other things, to handle that whole situation, the breakdown as it is, unless, push comes to shove, and we definitely have to focus on stuff like that. But in the meantime, yeah, I mean, what's going to happen there is going to happen, and we'll have the commentary on it from our, again, other hosts on this station.
No, I get you on that. It's what's going to happen is going to happen. But my particular point is, where are these people coming from that are complaining about the economy, yet, and they all live in trailer parks. They all run around with shoes with those shoelaces and look like people from Deliverance movies, for crying out loud. Where are they coming up with this money? They can't afford eggs, but they can provide a contribution to the dotard. But again, I'm gonna hammer this to the nth degree. He's a billionaire. What does he need any money for these schmucks from? That's why. Oh my God, it blows my mind, Andrew. And by the way, I'm gonna send you that picture again. I'll send it 3, 4, 5, 6 times until make sure you gotta see that picture. I swear by the gods of old, this so is representative of a Donnie Dotard doofus supporter. That's all I want to say.
All right, certainly entitled to your opinion, though I don't know if I'm going to totally agree with you on the characterization of all supporters of the former president, particularly in their lifestyle, shall we say. But again, there are some things being anticipated for tomorrow, and there will certainly be a lot of stuff going on our airwaves, if not totally just on this program.
No, I hear what you say, but I mentioned this once before. I swear by the gods of old again. I get the KTSM to cut loose $30,000-$40,000 for you and Amber to go out there to 14th Congressional District, and you'll see exactly the kind of people that I'm talking about that vote for the Donnie Dotard doofus. Come on, KTSM money bags, cut them loose. Let Andrew go out there and take pictures. It would be so much fun. I swear, it would be so hilarious. Even Ben would laugh at it.
Well, we'll see if that ever happens, but otherwise, certainly appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there.
Okay, Andrew, you take care.
All right, and I think we have time for at least one more call on the line right now. Again, if you want to get on the line, don't forget that number to do so, 915-544-587-6544-KTSM. Oh, a couple of comments there, among other things, including John on the whole appraisal thing. I can see people being worked up about that. John Browselton saying, I live in a late 1960s house. Everything is more or less original. Appraised value goes up $20,000 to $25,000 every year. And Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying, my house was built in 73. The tax assessment increases by thousands every year there as well. So I'm, totally expecting that to be a thing we're dealing with and going to be happening. But don't forget, if you're wanting to look into it, the specifics, the appraisals, and or contesting it, as soon as you start getting into it, certain clocks start counting down. So stay on top of it if you're at all interested in wanting to deal with that. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, let's get to another call on the line. We do have Eric on the east side with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hello there. One of your common refrains is that you can trust your national news partners, and I'm sure like me, Raul, and Frankie would all acknowledge that everyone on the station is just promoting disinformation and lies in regards to Trump's indictment, like pretending to know what the charges are. And, like Sean Hannity, for example, right before your show was going on and on about how Stormy Daniels, denies even having an affair at all. So you can't trust your national news partners to report on these subjects, and that includes Sinclair Broadcasting Group, which I had mentioned like many months ago. The day that Trump, his indictment, I mean, once the FBI raided his house, KFOX, the propagandists at KFOX, they were attacking the judge who signed the warrant, saying that he has ties with Jeffrey Epstein. That was their main article covering that. So, you know, your national news partners, they cannot be trusted at all to discuss these issues honestly. And, you know, you should consider that, you know, and expand your, you know, information sources beyond them when discussing these issues.
Okay, let's make something clear here. I'm not quoting them. I'm just saying people want to talk about that here, coverage and stuff going on like that. They do that here, but also don't expect that you're going to try to hold any other program on the station to account through the lens of this program. We do what we do here, and don't think I didn't see you accuse me of censorship for saying, hey, I'm not talking about this one today here. So do you know what censorship means? I do feel the need to ask that at this point.
Well, I was going to add the word preemptively censor because, you know, whenever Trump's crimes come up, you know, that are completely indefensible, you always refuse to acknowledge them while giving, you know, the white supremacists and bigots who call free reign to talk about whatever non-local issues their hearts desire.
Okay, dude, you said local, and you seem to understand that. You do understand that we are a local radio show, right? Like, we try to focus on the local issues and the things that are going on here. And sure, we have people that mention, including in the comments, a lot of other issues, but the primary focus we have is on the local issues. Does that make sense to you, or is there something not getting through here?
Oh, no, absolutely. But you don't hold the white supremacists and extremists to the same standard that, you know, you let them rant on and on about national news and COVID conspiracy theories and stuff of that nature when there's big national news, you know, that, you know, is not being properly reported on by yourself and this station in general.
Okay, but so when you're going to bring up these, oh, you always do things bad, particularly when you say that, okay, the most recent one, if we're going to talk about stuff that we are actually going on with today, which I would like to do, calling me on shameless disinformation when it comes to the idea that there are going to be costs when it comes with the actual climate change policy charter amendment and the climate, that whole department that's going to be created. You love giving out labels is what I've noticed here, but then when it comes to the actual like finer points, where am I wrong in saying that there are going to be costs associated with it, which is what I said?
No, what you said is that there's going to be tax increases when that's not a part of Prop K at all. You know, you promote disinformation about Prop K because you know you think you know better than NASA and the world scientists about climate change.
Dude, when did I reference that right now? Again, if you're just going to make up stuff to not be happy with me because you don't like what I'm talking about, I got nothing for you. But literally, the city on its own, not even that other analysis that you take issue with. And there's been a back and forth between, like, essentially the Chamber of Commerce and the Propagation K supporters, the Sunrise El Paso. I'm referring to the analysis that's been put out by the city of El Paso, the $150 million that they are saying will be required in order to fund, at the very least, the base level over the, let's call it through the 2040s, including the complete electrification by renewables only of all city of El Paso actual things. That's what I'm referring to here. So on that, where am I wrong?
You literally said that there's going to be tax increases when that's not a part of it, the Prop K at all. And, you know, that to uncritically share studies financed, you know, by El Paso's business interests, you know, in El Paso Electric, you know, and again, this goes back to one thing I was mentioning before, that conservatives, you know, they get their information from bad faith studies. They don't look at how the statistics and data were arrived to. They don't critique the methodologies of these studies. They just uncritically promote whatever goes along with their anti-government, anti-spending agenda.
So when we're talking about there's an increase of spending of $150 million over the next couple of decades, you're going to sit there and tell me that there will be no taxes to pay for that? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that Prop K, those studies, are not definitive, and also that there's no tax increases written in a Prop K. That's a fact. Are you going to agree with that? That there's no tax increases literally written into the language of Prop K?
There's no tax increases written into, if I'm not incorrect, anywhere in the agenda of the actual entire charter. But there are operations that are listed by it that are going to cost money. They're literally talking about staffing, the creating of a director position. Sure, it does not necessarily lay out the total amount of the cost of that, but you do understand that there are costs associated with the actions that they're talking about, right?
Yeah, there's always creative ways of financing these government projects that conservatives blindly oppose. But the fact of the matter is that there is no tax increases written in the language, just like there's no language saying that houses are going to have to get rid of their gas heaters or their electric panels or force them to get electric panels. You uncritically share the misinformed views of your commenters, to scare the listeners into opposing Prop K.
Again, we're doing a lot of analysis on Prop K, and I know that you think yourself some arbiter of truth on this, and yet you don't even know what we talk about half the time or listen to me half the time, considering that we have literally had on advocates, the ones that were doing the actual signature process for Prop K, when you called us out saying, oh, they'll never appear on the station, when they literally already had. So don't think you ain't got your blind spots here yourself, old boy. But let me just say this, that if you think that creating new departments and therefore financing them, supporting them, putting the money into them isn't going to have any cost associated with it, I would love to know the very creative finance process you're talking about and potentially sell a couple of bridge and roll into that whole package there as well. So I feel like we're going around here in circles today, and we're well past due for that next break as it is. So thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth, even if I'm still not sure you're actually listening to me and like what I'm saying, because if you don't like things, that's fine. But if you're just going to say, oh, you're wrong, and then you can't tell me why I'm wrong, then that's just saying, no, you're wrong. Like, seriously, that's like a third grade. That's like a first grade argument. I know you are, but what am I? Like, seriously, we can do better than that. If you actually want to talk about the issues, I'm here. But in the meantime, we got to take that next break now. So coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, everything we can squeeze in for the end of the program here anyway. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Phone lines full up, but if you want to squeeze on a little bit later, don't forget that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The county commissioner that oversees most of East El Paso, including the El Paso County Sports Park, is not seeking re-election. County Commissioner Carlos Leon made that announcement today. Leon is a former El Paso police officer who represents Precinct 1, which runs west to east from Geronimo to Eastlake Boulevard and north to south from Montana to I-10. A 33-year-old man has been identified as the shooter who injured a police officer with the Sunland Park Police Department over the weekend. Tony Gomez has been booked into the Doña Ana County Jail. Gomez on Sunday was charged with multiple crimes, including attempted murder, assault against a household member, aggravated battery against a household member, and abuse of a child and negligent use of a weapon. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A big crash in the East Valley, slowing traffic eastbound Montana Avenue at Rich Bean Boulevard. An accident involving a semi has caused a spill. Multiple lanes are blocked. I-10 eastbound at Zaragoza, a semi is blocking two left lanes there, causing a 17-minute delay back to Loma Land. Southbound on Memorial Highway between the Spur and the 10 Gateway, it's a 12-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the CBS 4 Warm Weather Center, I'm forecaster Vanya Castillo. Well, we're in for a very warm day here in the borderland, looking at a high of 83 degrees in El Paso, 80 in Las Cruces. So again, very warm temperatures, but we're also going to be seeing quite a bit of wind in with that as well. We are going to be seeing a wind advisory in effect until 3 p.m. We are expecting about 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. Could be seeing gusts up to 40 to 45 miles per hour. We are expecting blowing dust as well, so just be mindful while you're on the road. Drive carefully.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
What do eggs, the bunny, and other things that remind us of Easter have to do with the holiday? We'll have the story of our Easter traditions. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big. Now get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more. Offer ends 4/15. Visit staples.com/printbig for details. This is your sign to try Staples, where prints are perfect, guaranteed. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Sweetie, want some fruit? You have to use the right tool for the job. A power drill is the wrong tool to slice fruit. Just like an antibiotic is the wrong tool to treat viruses, including colds and flu. Antibiotics are only needed for certain bacterial infections. When they aren't needed, antibiotics won't help you, and the side effects could still hurt you. Ask your healthcare professional when an antibiotic is the right tool and when it's not. Visit cdc.gov/antibiotic-use.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We are up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Oh, yeah. Again, if you're wanting to talk about the other shows and the things they do about, I would certainly encourage anyone to talk to or call those shows, because we do our own thing here and we'll continue to do so regardless of whatever anyone else says, because it seems to be working out so far, because talking about local issues is important here. Anyway, let's get back to more of the phone calls. A lot of commentary on the previous caller, among other things, but let's just say Margie Mandango actually on the topic there. They put language into the proposition that said there would be tax increases, no one would vote for it. I mean, I guess I'll relent that. No, there is no by rote tax increases in that Proposition K, but come on. We're creating a whole new department, a lot of new regulation that comes along with it, and there's not going to be any cost increases that come along with that. Like, sure, if they're wanting to cut significantly in other areas, it's feasible that there would not be by rote a tax increase, but come on, let's be reasonable here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to the phone lines. We do have Richard in the Northeast on with us right now. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Hello, just a couple brief things here. First of all, I know you don't get a lot of pub, but I was able to listen to your historic show this Saturday.
Oh, sure.
About historic preservation, and I'm glad because of some useful information, because that's going to be my arena both in New Mexico and here. And I called several months back. I'm the one that kind of worked on the old Fort Bliss officers' quarters down there.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Still awaiting to see if they're going to put a historical marker there, something more definitive. So I'm glad to hear it, and now I know where I can turn my attention to for the future, as well as up here in Las Cruces in southern New Mexico. I think that's very important, especially for the borderland.
Fair enough.
History, you know.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree with you there. And for those unfamiliar, we're talking about, this past weekend's El Paso History Radio Show, we had on Evan Thompson, the executive director for Preservation Texas, because a notable local nonprofit, the Trost Society, they're actually going to cease operations. They're going to dissolve, and roll all of their operations into Preservation Texas, a statewide 501c3. And Preservation Texas is going to, in short form, be opening up an office in the West Texas region, specifically based in El Paso, but then covering basically everything till you end up getting to like Midland and Odessa is a decent way to put it. So it's very exciting in its own right. Not quite the newsy stuff we get to on this program, but we could see a lot of impacts. And I wouldn't be surprised if within the next couple of years, we don't end up talking about some of those things and what they are doing, including a proposed study of all of the architectural history in El Paso and where sites can be visited to see it. That would be a significant one, even beyond just historical analysis.
That's true. Good stuff. Behind one of those houses on Montana there by Cotton, so we'll see. The second thing real quickly is I'm actually a transplant, but I've been in the borderland since the 90s.
Okay.
I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and long short, what I see going on are a lot of parallels here in to Phoenix, Metro Phoenix at that time.
Okay.
Growing fast, speed of infrastructure going a little bit too fast, not being able to keep up, and the rise of just about everything, including property values, and that's what's happening here. As a homeowner over there in the Northeast, yes, I've seen a significant rise in our appraisal. I haven't received the recent one, but I'm not going to be surprised as to see what I find. But that's just part of the ills, or I wouldn't maybe call it ills. That's just part of the reality that happens in a growing city that's in need of city needs, unfortunately. However, there is one thing that I would like to see that I've seen in my life going on 6 decades.
Okay.
When it comes to actual budgets and spending on these projects, what we need as a city, I want to see some really definitive numbers because I want to know if we're wasting money. And I know that happens in a lot of different entities, within city structures. And I would like to see some transparency in that to exactly where our tax dollars go and not being wasted. I would like somebody to challenge that. That's all I got to share. I'll let somebody else speak.
No, sure thing. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. I will say that, okay, I've been in on previous city council meetings, even the work sessions that involve setting the budget. They are like, you can attend them. They're not like closed off to the public, except for like very specific things involving, executive session related type stuff. But I will call them Byzantine. So I'm not sure. Hopefully someone in town, actually, I'd love to see it, do a full breakdown even beyond the whole tax dollar concept that we try to approach every year of each dollar you're paying in taxes, how much is going to each entity, and therefore, what's the whole aggregate. But really, what is going to what within each city department. The closest I can give you right now is that I don't even know if it's currently or now is what it will be based on the new police department contract with the collective bargaining agreement, that the city budget goes roughly 60% to the El Paso Police Department and related agencies and operations. So closest I can give you right now, but like a full breakdown, I'm not saying that you can't get it. I'm just saying you probably need a couple of degrees to be able to do all the analysis without having anyone parse parts of it for you, just because complicated as hell. You could probably do it if you just dedicated enough time to it, but a lot of people got jobs and stuff they got to do. So I think it's outside the grasp of most of the average person and just the time it would take to wrangle all the numbers. So maybe that'd be a good project for see if we can collaborate with someone on. No promises, but hey, always open to possibilities. Let's squeeze in another call or two before we get to that end of the show as we can. We do have Joe on the east side, I believe, with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, good afternoon. How are you?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Hey, buddy. I normally like to just listen to your show and just get different points of view and just listen and try to figure out how people are thinking. But
sure,
I felt compelled to call you because a couple of people that called you first, the gentleman that called before this caller here, the fellow that stutters a lot.
Okay.
He was making accusations that I don't think you've ever espoused having white supremacy or any of those kind of racist views on your show. So I don't know where they come across saying things like that. You have different points of view and people get a little heated in there, but I don't think I've ever heard you promoting that kind of stuff. So I kind of think it's offensive. I don't know how you've managed to stay cool through it all, but some people, you just need to click the line. Just these people, they're nuts. Secondly, that fella, what I've noticed about these kind of people is they talk a lot and they spout off a lot, but they don't have any facts to back it up. Now, specifically when it comes to this new proposition, I don't know if this fella has even ever balanced a checkbook, but I've been in business for a lot of years. And the way it works is pretty simple, ladies and gentlemen. You take so much money in, you have so much money going out.
Sure.
And in terms of a city, it's revenue. So you get revenue come in, and then you have your expenditures. But for this guy to make the statement that there's no tax increase, it may not be written into the bill.
Sure.
But you'd have to be an idiot not to know that if you're going to spend several $100 million, you're going to have to get it from somewhere. And one thing that everybody should realize in this town is, when's the last time you've seen a department get cut? It doesn't work that way. It's non-existent. So what they do is they increase revenue. And the only way a city could increase revenue, the only way that any government entity could increase revenue is through tax increases. It's not that complicated. So why this fella comes up and says these things that just, you got to laugh or cry, because these guys are clueless and they actually believe the stuff they're saying. So just wanted to put that out to you. I don't know how you managed to maintain your composure with this idiot, but he has no clue what he's talking about. Lastly,
sure, you can go ahead.
Lastly, this fella, Frankie from Messia, another one, he's trying to paint a picture of Trump supporters. It's none of his business, none of your business, nobody's business. But I've got to just share this because he's completely just missing the mark. I'm very well off. I got a couple $1 million sitting around there.
Okay.
And Frankie, this is for you. I am a donor to Trump. I support the man. What they're doing to the man is atrocious. And that's why he's raising the kind of money that he's raising. And the stupid comment that he made is, why would you give money to a billionaire? His personal financial status has nothing to do with running a campaign for president of the United States. This guy must be a complete idiot. Those are two separate entities. He could put some of his own money in.
Okay, so what you're getting at?
That? You're running a campaign. So I just want to share with Frankie that I am a proud donor to President Trump. And what they're doing to that man is completely wrong. And that's why there are millions of people that don't have the same financial backing that I do. They're giving $5, $10, but that's how you make a presidential campaign work. And the bottom line is the masses are just getting tired because it's very clear to see what is taking place with this man, and the people are fed up. And the way they're showing their unhappiness with the situation is by donating to his campaign. So, Frankie, I don't know what to say to you. You have no clue. So that's what I wanted to say, Andrew. Again, keep up the good work. I don't understand how you are able to put up with some of these people that accuse you of things that I've never heard you say on the show. But again, it's your show, to each their own. I just want to end with that, and keep up the good work.
Well, appreciate it. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.
Let me just say this briefly before we end up having to take that last break right now, is that there's slings and arrows of outrageous fortune is a phrase I think of a lot when it comes to the stuff we deal with on this program. And there are a lot of people who have a lot of perspectives and a lot of ways that they either want things to happen or not happen. And a lot of people who aren't necessarily willing to actually put forth reasons or logic behind it as much as they may claim it. And so the easiest thing rhetorically to do is just to label someone, to say, oh, it's a logical fallacy, among other things. Appeal to authority, moving goalposts, there's a whole lot of ways you can end up couching it depending on the specific way they're doing it. But saying is that I have labeled you the worst thing I can imagine, therefore anything you say is invalid, and not actually dealing with your logic behind it is, well, it's a cheap tactic. And that's why I don't subscribe to it. I mean, sure, we have people who mention it, who bring it up here, but I mean, at the very least for me, it's duck off, water off a duck's back, because they can't actually bear it out. And as much as it's used as this source, this person, this agency has said these bad, awful things I disagree with in the past, okay, fine, you can disagree with them. But with what is being said right now, if you're not actually addressing that, it's called conceding the point, as a matter of fact. Because if you're not actually addressing what is being said, what the arguments are, what the issues are, you're just labeling it as something, as the most reprehensible thing that you can imagine, as if it's a win button. And therefore, now I called you the worst thing I can't. Literally, there's a law online that the first person to reference Hitler loses the argument. And I guess I kind of carry that over into the real world, that if you're just going to call someone the worst thing you can imagine, and this goes either way, by the way, I do have to say, whether it be left wing or right wing, if you're just going with the worst phrase you can think of to describe their argument, you're kind of missing the point about what they're actually talking about. And that's what I always say and what I absolutely still focus on. So tell you what, we got to take that last break right now. And coming out of this, we'll tell you what we got coming up for you on the program, including more interviews, including some of the ones you all have been asking for, among other things. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Expect delays on the I-10 eastbound after an accident involving a semi has now been pushed off to the right shoulder. Still a backup back to Airway with 10-minute delays. Eastbound Montana Avenue, a crash involving another semi that's caused a spill at Rich Beam Boulevard. Multiple lanes are blocked, and it's a 35-minute delay back to McRae. Slow traffic Memorial Highway, southbound between the Spur and the 10 Gateway. It's a 7-minute backup. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
What do eggs, the bunny, and other things that remind us of Easter have to do with the holiday? We'll have the story of our Easter traditions. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
It's April, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing in participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Vision for El Paso is having their Laugh Launcher Comedy Night fundraiser on Wednesday, April 19th at Bart Reed's Comic Strip. 10 amateur comedians will be hitting the stage, competing to see who can get the most laughs. It's a night full of fun and funny, all for a great cause. Get your tickets now at LaughTonight.com. That's LAFF2NITE.com. Don't miss the Vision for El Paso Laugh Launcher Comedy Night fundraiser, Wednesday, April 19th.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
All right, thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are beyond out of time here for this show, so we're able to get to y'all's calls today. Don't worry, we'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. A couple of things we got coming up for you this week, including tomorrow, visiting with El Paso Inc., editor Same over there, about the big stories going on in our region, including, among other things, that police contract, some more business development efforts going on in the area, and just, well, all the issues we love to delve into, among other things. Plus, later in the week, trying to get on the schedule back again, having Jay Ratliff, get the name right, the aviation and financial analysts that we sometimes talk with. So we got some of those questions y'all have been proposing. We'll be bringing that up as well. So that's a whole lot and a whole lot more we'll be getting into, but we'll have to leave it there because we're out of time here for the show. So I do want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show every way. We'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. as we do every Monday through Friday. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
In the East Valley, eastbound Montana Avenue at Rich Beam, an earlier crash involving a car and a semi has caused a spill. It's blocking multiple lanes, 31-minute delays back to Hawkins. I-10 eastbound at Zaragoza, an earlier crash has been cleared. That's good news. That backup is disappearing, less than a 5-minute delay now. And 2 vehicles are stalled off on the right shoulder, Memorial Highway northbound at Edgemere. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Former President Trump is back at his New York City residence on the eve of his indictment. He'll face charges tomorrow related to an alleged hush money deal to an adult film actress to conceal an affair. A few dozen supporters lined up outside Trump Tower. Natalie Migliori has more.
The former president waved as he walked into Trump Tower. Some of his supporters had been out there for hours.
Yeah, Donald Trump is my hero.
There's an attempt to get him off the ballot. They know he's the Republican candidate.
You know, Trump gave up an awful lot for this country. We may not like some of the tweets he put out, but it